No, I don't. Yes, I do.
Wait, you don't miss us?
No, I miss you guys. But it makes me think of the weird bit where the
Oh, look, we're
pandemic
live.
just started. Oh, hey.
I didn't even think my splash screen, but we'll do it. Splashy splash.
I got that notification like instantly.
Really? Let me see if I got it. My phone doesn't like want to give me notifications anymore. It makes me sad. I must have changed one permission.
Say hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hello.
I can't see myself. Where
Going around the table. Kyle, what are you working on?
Stuff from Spy Hunter. Bally Pinball Spy Hunter, not the Midway video game.
Nice.
Nice. Benzik, what are you working on?
I'm working on code for my homebrew pinball machine. So writing Python code for the fair manager.
The what?
The fair manager. So because it's taxi themed, so every location is a fair. So I call it the fair manager.
Oh.
When you hit.
Yeah, I forgot the taxi part, and I was thinking like, yes, the county fair. Why are we there in Motor City Taxi? What?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really simple, but the way I made it way too simple, and so that caused it to have just a ton of bloat, and it'll end up being like 1,000 or more lines, and I think I can knock it down to like 150 or sub 200. So
I wish you luck. That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, we'll see if it works. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
So what exactly are you working on Spy Hunter?
I'm just checking the power supply first. These things are usually hacked, but someone's worked on this thing a little bit, and they did a really bad job of or they did a sloppy job of flowing the solder. But I'm just checking fuse values right now. I'd like to wait. Did that say 8 amp? Wrong.
That sounds higher than it needs to be.
We need a 5 amp. Yeah, I just working on this right now to see. Get it safe to power on, you know?
Yeah.
Once we get there, I'll have to do some checking. This game's pretty virgin, other than the fact that it's got, I think someone put a lithium battery in there, but I need to double check.
Oh,
I'm
Cars from Croatia has joined us.
Hey!
Nice.
How is the weather on the beautiful Adriatic Sea right now? This 8 amp fuse can go in my box of rogue fuses. Let's see. Yeah, again.
On the note of starting up a game that like new to you or whatever, is there any merit to putting lower rated fuses in for like first fire up, that if something is angry, it'll pop sooner than later?
No, but what I would say, instead of like doing that, I would like plug things in selectively, right? Like what we'll do is, oh geez, sorry, someone's blowing my phone up. What I would do is like is unplug certain devices. So I would unplug like the solenoids or the lamps and just, plug everything logic level in first, and then plug in the solenoids. Does that blow it? No. Okay, plug everything in slowly like that. That's generally how I'd do it.
Okay.
Because the fuse, like, again, if you have the right value fuse, it'll blow when it should, right?
Yeah.
Put a little bit of cheap thermal paste onto our bridge rectifiers here. You see Spy Hunter.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey. Oh, hey, Mitchell Reader. What's up, man? And Phil, howdy. Dude, I love Spy Hunter. This game gets a really bad rap because it's kind of basic and there's not a lot going on, but it's fun. Like the guy I used to work for taught me how to love Spy Hunter, and we set the rules up hard, and when you really understand the way the game works, it's actually a fun game to be competitive on. All pinball's good pinball, sorta. Kinda. All right. I do really like this game though. For a long, it's kind of a fun game, and I just like this era of pinball. The weird, after the golden times era. But I have a soft spot for this game because not only the dude that taught me everything I know about pinball, right, loved this game, but we just always seemed to have a Spy Hunter, and we'd always be able to sell Spy Hunter. So I was always working on Spy Hunters.
Nice. And that's at Pacific or at the op you were working with?
Yeah, my friend Chris Kuntz, the pinball pirate. We never actually. I don't think we had one at the Pacific Pinball Museum, but we need one. Maybe I'll buy one and send it over there to him. Unfortunately, Xenon's really loud. I need to turn that down. We're doing. I'm only doing the electronics on this game.
Oh, Moto, I just saw your post.
What'd she say?
Your chair looks so comfy.
It is. I need to replace it because it is so old. I got it like sophomore year of college for like $20 from like the free and for sale page at Michigan Tech. And that was 10 years ago, I think. Something like that.
You need like a cigar and some whiskey. Just like chilling and lounging on that office chair. You didn't see his chair? It's so nice looking.
Yeah, it's a nice puffy chair. It looks fancy.
If you get off your chair, then Kyle can see your chair.
Yeah, here.
Get out of there. Wait.
Oh yeah.
Look at that chair.
That looks like
Solid.
a CEO's chair.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I guess I could show
What's
what I'm
going on?
doing.
It's Lit Pinball. How are you today?
Yeah, what's up, man? Thanks for stopping by.
I'm hiding behind the toolbox.
So check this out on this camera thingy here. Okay, Bally boards. Really simple.
Okay.
Computer does computer things. Lamp driver does controlled lamps. You've got a auxiliary lamp driver here to control a couple more lamps, right? That's what this is. Yeah. You've got the cheap squeak board. So it is this is a great board. They used it in place of the Squawk and Talk, which was expensive and had like voice processing ability. This is like basically sound and music. Again, cheap. And then you have your solenoid driver board. But this board is really important because it takes all the voltages in here, does voltage things, and then sends it out. Everything else, like these are your solenoid controls, flipper stuff, and this is data coming in to be controlled by the solenoids, right? So what we're going to do when we power this thing up is I'm going to remove all of these plugs. I can leave the data coming in. That won't cause a problem. But what we want to do is make sure that we have voltage. But I am going to remove this first. This capacitor, I don't see these ones fail as often, these big can-shaped ones. But the ones on the earlier games, these always fail. What it does in circuit is this takes in 12 volts DC, unregulated. This filters that 12 volts. And then it gets turned into 5 volts on this regulator here. So if this thing has a lot of ripple, or it's not if it's not doing capacitor things well enough, you can have intermittent 5 volts, which causes computer not to run. So basically the first thing I always do on a Bally game, especially if it's still untouched like this one, is we change this capacitor. So. Otherwise, though, I mean, it has been worked on. You'll see these little tags from board houses that have worked on games before. This one, it's Brady Distributing, which was a big distributor down here in the southeast. Oh yeah, there's Brady stickers all over the dang thing. But maybe those were put on when the game was new and sold to the operator. Who knows? Anyways, we're gonna yank that out real quick. Any questions? Oh no, there's my face. I own 4 machines, and maybe for the first. Good job. You just by saying you have nothing to fix, you're gonna be breaking things, man.
Yeah, your next game, your something, a fuse is gonna pop.
I have.
Hopefully.
Actually, I have no problems with any of my games right now either. I had a problem where Kings of Steel didn't boot up the other day, but I wiggled the power connector and it did. So there's my biggest problem right now. And I guess TNA is having problems with the drop targets, but I can fix that.
UK Pinball Club, he's working on a Spy Hunter today.
Spy Hunter. It's a great game too because it's maybe the only game that has the soundtrack of the Peter Gunn, right? Dun 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 dun. Reminds me of my grandpa. I'm watching TV with him.
No, UK, you're good. It's not in the title. We were just talking about it earlier.
The what?
Oh, UK was asking if he missed it in the title or something.
Oh yeah. Gotcha. Let's take this thing out. I would have done a better job. We'd do like a big production for this thing on like a Thursday stream, but this is a customer's game and he wants it done and I want to get it done and I have a lot of time this weekend, so we're doing a quick weekend stream to get this thing going. The local barcade in town has a lot of pinball that needs to be worked on before they open up to the general public. So I'll have to do this stuff here and then I gotta run over there, work until midnight a few more times this week.
Ooh, those
someone's
are fun
been
days.
here before and did a really crummy job.
Is that the power entry port that looks like it's got some like flux still on it, some discoloration on that header?
Yeah, it's got, I mean, the flux remaining doesn't bother me a lot, but like this kind of stuff.
You don't repaint the enamel over it. Oh, that's a lot of solder.
Yeah,
you don't
it's just
need
gross.
A lot of solder.
People, instead of what you should be doing when people say like, oh, reflow the solder, that doesn't mean add more solder to the crap that's already there. That means get rid of the old stuff, add new stuff. This is just a big blob of old solder and new solder, which is not ideal. So I'm gonna do a bit of cleaning on this thing just because it doesn't take much time. There's also a patch wire I like to run on these Bally games that it's been a while since I've done it, so I need to remember what I'm doing. But there's a patch wire we run between, I think, the 12 volts here and something else. It's just a teeny little wire that will run that will combine these two traces. So just in case one of them breaks, we don't lose our 12 volts. This is a double-sided board, but a lot of times these little 0.100 connectors crack. So I'll have to look at the schematic to remember where I run that patch wire. I keep saying it's like, oh, I know the Bally stuff like the back of my hand, but man, I'm getting rusty not doing this all day anymore.
Yeah, but now you know every single pinball part there is and the associated Marco part number. So
for better or
you
worse.
Win some, you lose some.
For better or worse. I will bring the solder sucker over here. We'll do this clean. All right, let's make some room on my teeny little table here. And also, let's turn Xenon off, because she's loud.
Yeah. It's like my blackout does like the blackout, bah.
It's
but
so
like
cool.
I need to recap the soundboard because every once in a while it just pulls the wrong sound and it sounds like the chip is doing something it should not be doing. So I think the caps and the timing circuits are starting to show their age.
I would definitely do that, but Williams did. I know Williams used solenoid drives, I think, to like call up sounds. I think so. There might be a couple things. Oh wow, there's a lot of people talking.
Oh yeah.
No more calls. Yeah, no, never add solder. Adding solder is always bad. So we're just gonna do it the right way.
So on old solder joints, do you ever add any like paste flux to get the old solder to kind of to flow a little bit for the solder sucker to work better?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on where I'm working. In this case, I will because I want it to go fast. But it's, you know, it's like last night I was replacing trough LEDs on a shadow. And it was just like, fuck it, you know, just let's do it, you know, instead of adding. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't be swearing, but. Had an Italian Technoplay X-Force pinball named Spy Hunter. Oh, same. That's funny. I really do like the games that are kind of like rip-offs of like Bally or Williams games. I would really like to get some Brazilian games where they kind of had the same playfield layout and stuff and similar art. But
is there any official word on those of like, did any of the main manufacturers just like contract out the design and go, you know, here's the CAD or whatever?
I don't think so. I think they were straight rip-off reproductions. And it's interesting. I know the story is that at some point, I mean, pinball was big in Brazil, but at some point there was a tax placed on, oh, I still got to turn Xenon off. There was a tax placed on imported like amusement devices. So that led to Taito existed in Brazil manufacturing games, I think. And they just decided, you know, the actual company Taito went away. I don't remember how it worked, but it all stemmed from a big tax. And that spawned a domestic Brazilian pinball market, which I think is just incredible. That also being said, Spanish and Italian pinball is my new obsession, and I need more of them.
Well, I mean, like, Burke had brought a ton of his Brazil and Brazilian games in for the like the opener party for Expo last year, and playing some of those was like, it was so cool to see how they did certain things. Like if they couldn't, like they had these really weird rollover switches that were a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and just looked really cool.
It's neat, man.
Get one of those solder guns.
Innovative. I know, it's so beautiful and just makes such fast work of everything. We're using the solder sucker to safely remove all of this old solder. And I need to look up...
Remember, kids, when working on old boards, make sure to be in a very well ventilated area.
Yeah, very much unlike where I am right now. Just don't breathe it in. Uh-oh. Sounds like we've got a clog and we just started using it. Oh, you're killing me, thing. Hold on. Let's fix this thing. So yeah, big part of working on these Bally games is just kind of giving yourself a baseline. What's up? Hi, Emoto, what's up?
Do we sell any rollover parts for Premiere games?
Probably. We should.
Ball guide rails?
The what?
Ball guide rails?
Probably not. If you need that kind of stuff, Steve Young does have some of that stuff laying around sometimes, so I'd suggest checking out, asking Pinball Resource about some of that stuff. Again, though, everything on our website is listed by the original part number, so try to find it in your manual and search it. If it doesn't come up, you can use that information to ask Steve as well. Let's see. 5 here.
Their part numbers are like only 4 digits long.
Yeah, Gottlieb part numbers are weird.
Oh, wow, we do have it.
Perfect.
How do I say this in Spanish?
Oh, geez. Oh, sorry, man. I'm missing the chat right now. Don't tech out.
Elusive Ninja. The amount of cursing during pinball repairs is like the shot to drink balance when playing pinball.
Yeah, right? My biggest problem right now is I've actually forgot my beer at home. So I'm not gonna replace the header. The header's like not tarnished enough, but I'm trying to remember where I ran that 5-volt patch wire. I feel really dumb now.
What's the connector side look like?
The harness side?
Yeah, that's what
it looks fine. I mean, unless I have a problem, I'm not gonna replace it. These don't have a ton of protrusion. Let's just see what happens. These are such teeny little pins. It's like this does not take much solder at all.
Mm-hmm.
And since I don't have any ventilation, I'm not able to get super close. You can kind of do it by touch.
I'm gonna have to give some more subs to get Kyle a little soldering fan next to him.
Yeah, I should get one.
Yeah, I made that mistake when I soldered up Motor City. My throat was pretty messed up for a couple days from fumes, and learned that lesson really well.
Yeah, well ventilated areas. I am just really good at holding my breath, so.
Ooh. CNK, you got a swag pack. Ooh, what was in the swag pack, CNK?
What'd you get? What'd you get? What did we send you?
You get some stickers.
I used to send out all the
No,
swag
we
packs.
have stickers.
Yeah, what happened to all our stickers? We gotta get more of those made. I've been spending more time trying to get the Sopranos plastic set made than I should tell Marlon to make some more stickers, though. I'm gonna check one of my good driver boards and see, instead of like looking at the schematic to remember where I run this patch, I'm just gonna look for one of my good ones. I know I've got a. Are these bad
just
circuit
have
boards or good
a
circuit
Google
boards?
Doc of Kyle's tech tips that we can just like slowly build out to make a compendium of things that we tell ourselves we'll never forget, but then we do.
That sounds awesome. Last night, was it last night? 2 nights ago? I don't know. Days are hard. When we did the PinTech After Hours, Bob Matthews was in the chat, and he sent us a link to his drive. He made a Bob Matthews guide to all classics games, and it like gives you the brief explanation of the game and then exactly how to play it for like every single classics game ever, and it's
amazing. I've got way too many boxes of circuit boards over here. I'm sorry. 1 second.
Same. I've got a Rubbermaid filled with 3 through 6 Williams driver boards and MPUs, and then also I think a couple arcade PCBs that I don't use. Is Marco running a ship code today?
No, we are not. Just Thursday. Yep, I just texted it. No, just on Thursdays. Just the 24-hour code on Thursdays. Can't wait.
Where the heck? I wonder if it's in my switch. What does this say? 2 lamp driver boards. -23. Okay, this might be a Bally box.
Oh yeah, the Pincyclopedia.
Flash Gordon shit. Huh. What is in here? Oh, hey baby. Not what I'm looking for, but I found a really nice Flash Gordon apron. Sorry. What's that? A big box of Bally computers that are good.
How's it going, Hideaway Arcade? What are you up to today? Anything fun?
I have a feeling my good, like ready to go spare driver board went into another pinball game. 1 sec. I think I put it in Meteor. I think I was saving it for Sea Witch, but it ended up in Meteor. And I put a key on the back of that now, so I need to take out extra. What I'm looking for is there's a mod that I totally forgot where I need to do this at, but it is a patch that will ensure good constant 5 volts at the driver board. There's a single pin that carries 5 volts that can break, and if that breaks, you lose a bunch of stuff. Ah, here it is. Okay, I need tools now.
Are you just bridging the 2 different 5-volt rails so that they double up and kind of back up each other?
Yeah, there's one bit where there's like 4 or 5 pins that carry 5 volts, and then there's one pin that singularly carries 5 volts. And again, the singular pin is prone to cracking, and I think that will cause all sorts of goofy crashes. So I need new standoffs for this poor meteor. I have a collection of stern boards, like actual old stern boards, that I'm saving for my sea witch that I'm going to put together one day.
You have a sea witch currently, or are you just like stocking parts to make a really pretty one?
I've got half a, I mean, yes, I have a sea witch, but it is in a bazillion pieces.
Okay.
It's,
good start.
I got it from a guy. One of my friends gave it to me, and because he had 2 sea witches, and he went to go make 1 good sea witch out of 2 sea witches. So, okay, this board does have it. And this is what I thought it was, but I didn't want to say it online before I actually figured it out. This is a, let me point this camera up. Here's a stern solenoid driver board. Again, it's the same thing. It's a Bally board, but I really like these stern ones because they're gorgeous. And again, when I put my stern games together, they're going to have all stern boards. But if we look at the back, this is the power connector. This is sloppy. The traces were broken before I got here, so I kind of just made do with what I had. I should have run some Kynar wire or something instead of just bridging them sloppily like that. Oh, you can't see that. This bit here. Acceptable, but ugly. But this is the modification. This pin right here is 5 volts that gets carried to all of the chips on this board, I believe is what it is. And this is your like standard, or this is where the 5 volts for the rest of the game comes out. So we will run a teeny wire from here to ensure that this end pin, which very commonly breaks, end pins are always the ones that are broken. We won't lose 5 volts to this board. So, anywho.
And that's because most people pry up on either side, and it flexes those pins the hardest and usually breaks the solder.
Exactly. It's just the most common, they take the most stress when you're prying them up from one side or the other. So generally when you find cracked solder on these things, it's like, you know, these 3 pins are cracked and these 2 here, but these ones are fine. So, anywho, I'm trying to see where the pass-through is. I don't remember how the circuit looked like on this board. Oh, yeah, okay, so here's what it is, too. Let me put this board aside, and then I'll just put it in Meteor later. The 5 volts passes through a resistor. Don't ask me why, I have no idea. The Bally board is different. Let me see if I can find the trace here. I can't. There's the test point, and then the test point hooks up to that rail. Well, that's peculiar. Where does the test point?
Enjoy the sub hideaway, and enjoy the emotes and the bent screwdriver.
Yeah. Hey, y'all. Sorry, I'm totally not paying attention to the chat. You stock 555 lamp sockets for the back box of Adam's family. I don't think so. I think that's a weird part. But there are things you can do to, because They're a big flat socket that has an IDC connector built in, right? I don't remember if we have them, but try to find it in your parts. You might not be able to find it in your manual, but you might be able to find it into the parts manual. So. Where the heck? You know what? I am not going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out where it is on this board, but it is. I'm going to do the mod. I'm going to get my... Actually, I had a bunch of small pieces of wire right over here. Little wires I was using to crimp terminals onto last week on our stream. I'm going to inspect the solder that I kind of blobbed on there really quick. Where is my jeweler's loop? Oh wait, it's on the desk. I was using it earlier. Here it is. I had an auto shop teacher that always did that. He'd run around being like, "Where's my glasses?" And they're like, "Dude, they're on your head, right?" Like, I've turned into that guy now.
I did that when I was looking for, I can't remember. I can't remember what tool I was looking for, but I was working on TNA and just like could not find it. And he was just sitting on the glass on Iron Maiden next game over. And I was just like, I hate everything right now. I spent 10 minutes looking for this tool.
Of course it was. I have a ghost, fake locks happening on my TNA. I think I need to rebuild the little connectors that connect to the opto board.
Oh, yeah.
These aren't tied together.
Yeah, I was hoping someone work on their, what's it called? Their trough optos were acting up. So like when it went into multi-ball, suddenly it would just end the ball. And it was just, could not figure it out. So we just replaced a couple switches. I think it worked.
Huh.
And it hasn't happened again.
I haven't had that problem. The only optos I've ever had a problem with on my TNA are just seriously the drop target ones. You'll get those evil false ball locks, and you're like, man, I have to hit it twice to try to get the ball locked in there.
Well, I think when Spooky solders, they run the temp really high, and so some of the micro switches don't really like that high a temp, and so sometimes that can kind of make them act up. I know personally, I've smoked micro switches like that. So. Oh
yeah. Let's see. Pin 25 goes to A3, J313. So they are supposed to be hooked together. A3, J313. Okay. I'm confident in that I've done this a bazillion times and I know what I'm doing. I'm just going to follow my gut and just do it. So, yeah. Sometimes it's easier just to do it that way. And if we get a bunch of magic smoke, then, well.
Next Thursday's Pentech stream. How to put the magic smoke back in the machine.
Yeah. Whee! Now, I think next Thursday we're going to work on an old Williams game. As much as I don't want to, I'm not afraid of people, like, telling me I'm doing a terrible job and I don't know what I'm talking about. So I was, like, very apprehensive to work on those old Williams games because I just find them annoying. I hate working on them. But we've got a time warp here that I need to get working because it's one of our test games for the pin score stuff. And I need to work on a flash for a customer, and I need to work on a jungle lord that I have now. So I might as well just get more comfortable working on the Williams stuff. I kind of want to use it as a case in point thing to like show people that sometimes you need to give up. So if we try getting that computer running and we can't get it running, it's in your best interest to stop wasting your time and just buy a new board, Yeah. With those boards especially, because they're just notoriously unreliable.
Playing a little smart Wi-Fi recently.
Steve emoji, cool.
Oh, Kyle, aim your C920 down at the board.
Oh,
Touch
sorry.
your face.
Ice-Skidoo, that would be interesting to do. It would be hard because you'd have to tap into the switch matrix, make sure you have the right diodes in the right places. It's not impossible. If you try it, post about it. That sounds fun.
That is pretty a cute idea. Yeah, it would be tough with the coding of the game. Okay.
Well, it would only have to be I guess it wouldn't be that hard. You just have to tap into that switch's terminals and just make sure that you have a diode across the relay, and then it would just act like a switch hit. So it wouldn't give you a jackpot unless that you were in that part of the code.
Sure.
Otherwise, it would just be a switch hit.
Yeah, I guess the only other concern could be like sometimes a game needs like 2 switch hits to signify that, like if a jackpot's a ramp, right? Most ramps will have a entry and a you made the ramp switch. So you might need it to hit 2 switches, but whatever. You're making it more complicated.
2 relays in our Arduino with a 100 millisecond pause between the 2.
You can make anything happen with that.
Yeah.
God, this board is so brutal. This board is not original to this game. This is a much older solenoid driver board that got put into this Spy Hunter, and they're all the same, so it's fine, but this thing is just a little bit roached. If this was my game, I would spend a lot more time making it pretty, but since it's just a customer's game, we'll make it work reliably. I'll make it as pretty as possible, right? I think that's one thing you have to do as a pinball technician to, why do I charge $100 an hour, right? It's like, well, your work has to reflect that. And if you don't respect the customer, you're not going to do a job that reflects that, if your work if you don't take as much pride in your work on a customer's game as you do in your own game, then you're doing it wrong. Do I find EMs are harder to work on or solid state? It's different. Electromechanical games are, the problem solving is just very different as opposed to solid state stuff. I find it a lot easier to take a solid state game from a non-working state and getting them working than it is in electromechanical sometimes, because a lot of the solid state repairs are really procedural. But it's also easy because I can't just swap components on an electromechanical game, right? If I very highly suspect I have a bad computer, I can put a new computer in it, and the problem game is like, oh, hey, it works. It is the computer. I can focus on fixing it or replace it. That being said, that is a lot more difficult to do with an electromechanical game.
Although it is nice when it's just dirty switches on electromechanical and you play it 20 times and all of a sudden all the features come back on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that is very commonplace on electromechanical games.
That's what happened on my, what's it called? My Knight Rider. Like half the lights didn't work on it. And the guy was like, I don't know what's wrong with it. The score motor was constantly running. I was like, all right, who knows what's wrong with it? We'll see what's up. And got it home, smacked the playfield a couple of times, yeah. And then just played the heck out of it. And all of a sudden, everything was working.
Honestly, hitting the playfield is a very, very valid way to fix a pinball machine. Last night, I was having an intermittent trough opto on a shadow on a customer's game. And I just started pounding on the playfield. And that caused the balls to slightly jiggle. It also caused the trough to jiggle. And I would lose one of my optos, which would cause the game to consistently start cycling balls. And that's also a great way to test for switches that are a little too close or something like that. Just pound on the playfield, seriously.
Oh, hey, we got Scott in chat.
Hey, Scott, what's up? The code is there for it. Well, I guess we gotta try it. I mean, we can. If I find an air horn, we could try to do something like that.
Where are we putting an air horn in?
We're gonna put it on TNA.
Oh, for the like when you kill a reactor?
Yeah, why not? We'll make it do something to scare somebody.
I mean, I have my that back glass controller I made that's pulling the beacon logic, and I've got several outputs if you want me to send you over a board, and we can put an air raid siren on it.
I do want something at some point. My favorite pinball mod that I've ever done was getting a what's it called? Electric leaf blower to work on a whirlwind. That was very exciting.
Nice.
There are a couple cracked joints here. Let's just see really quick.
Oh, it's Lit Pinball. Thank you for gifting a bunch of subs in chat.
Oh my gosh. Hey, thanks, man. He's very generous. A very generous consumer of pinball content.
And then Kyle, have you seen that new Twilight Zone mod? The back screen panel?
Oh yeah, someone put that like display on the back panel, like the behind the playfield, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of cool, man.
Yeah, I think it just looks so cool. I almost want to get a Twilight Zone just for that because it just looks so cool.
My goal with my Twilight Zone that I've had for a very long time is to have the world's stockest Twilight Zone. There's going to be a day when every Twilight Zone has been modded to oblivion, and I'm going to have the only boring one left.
Yeah. Yeah, Jimmy had created that mod and figured out how to queue everything. That dude is a genius and a half.
Yeah, everything that Jimmy does is incredible. I wish most people had the attention and to detail that he does when they're making that kind of stuff. Let's see how many 15,000 microfarad capacitors I have left. I have 2. We're going to replace the filter capacitor. I'm going to use the stubby one because I like these long ones to use in... there's one game that likes this skinnier, and I don't remember what it is, so I'm not going to even try to remember at this point. But the original capacitor is probably not dead. These ones don't really go bad as often as the non-capped filter caps do, but I just would feel really guilty if I didn't, so we're yanking the thing off.
But it's a 15-year lifespan component that should have been replaced 15 years ago, so.
Absolutely. Scott says people do that with JDM cards now too. Yeah, I know, and I think it's really neat, man. Growing up, going to car shows, I always appreciated the dude that had a super stock 55 Chevy compared to the guy that had this crazy like tub chassis, 13-inch wide wheels hot rod thing. Like the stock car was just so handsome. Anyways.
Yeah.
No, don't get me wrong. I love a well-modded Twilight Zone, except for when you go see that 12-volt section and like there's like plug on top of plug on top of plug that's like really straining the 12-volt supply on that
wires
game.
Glowing.
Yeah. So the stock capacitor, see if we can get this to focus. This is an 11,700 microfarad 20-volt capacitor. This is filtering 12 volts. And generally, especially with filter capacitors, going up is fine, right? So I will be replacing this with a 15,000 microfarad capacitor that's good for 25 volts, right? This is only doing 12 volts, so we've got a lot of upward voltage to go, right? It's not going to blow it out by putting less voltage through it. It's rated up to 25 volts. And having the extra couple thousand microfarads of capacitance will cause no issue in this application, right? Like, again, if this was like an audio sort of thing or medical or I don't know, you would have problems. The engineers know how to rate these things. These capacitors, this is a snap style capacitor. They're cheap and they work okay in this application because we have 2 wire leads that we can solder it to. and they are marked which side is the negative. So we will make sure we hook the this side to the positive labeled wire and this side to the negative. And when I install these, I always like to leave the information upwards so you can reference what is in there. So sorry, let's check chat now. Rated for X deep cycles. How does that work on X? Who knows, man?
I mean, technically, it means it'll never fail because we never really actually deep cycle it. But the other side of the engineer in me goes, no, it's dead. Replace.
This stuff, and the reason I'm replacing this is even though that this thing is fine, right? It's old, and this thing will work. It is overrated, and these ones in particular, these big metal cased ones, generally don't go bad. But if I don't replace this, this turns into a service call, right?
Yeah.
You can slack on other things, right? But if this doesn't work, the game won't boot up and you get a service call, right? The customer might not care about a couple lights not working, right? That's a bummer, but we can go fix that later. But if you deliver the game back to the customer and it does not turn on, they're generally pretty grumpy. So that's the reason I always do this, because it is a high mortality part that literally causes the game to not work. So
it's a cheap part that saves you an expensive trip.
Exactly. Yeah, and again, it's like but this is something you do on every Bally game, right? It's like if it's never been changed, you just do it. I haven't even turned this game on yet, right? And we're doing this because I know it needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I also change this little 10 microfarad capacitor over here. I think it's a 10. It's also, I think this is on the 5 volt or it's on the 12 volt line. But I'll replace this before I replace the regulator. Regulators don't go bad as often, but sometimes this guy can take a dump and cause weird problems. So. Oh, hey, mTort. Yes, yeah, no, absolutely. All 30-year-old electrolytic capacitors are bad, but I don't need to change most of them, right? The game will function okay, but on certain applications, especially like on soundboards and with this driver board, they need to be replaced. Now, okay, a lot of people ask me why I don't replace the filter capacitor for the high voltage, because in my experience and the people that have taught me everything, they just don't go bad. For some reason, this circuit and this capacitor doesn't go bad. And the worst that can happen if this goes bad is you lose your displays. But these are kind of expensive to get them in the correct value. It's a 350 volt capacitor. But I just don't see them go bad. So I generally don't replace them unless I have to. Every single one of my Bally games, every Bally game I've ever owned, and every one I've ever worked on, I think I've only seen 1 or 2 bad. So.
Yeah, mTOR has a good point that it's not sitting right next to the heatsink, but it's got the 12 volt heatsink. Isn't that the 12 volt rectifier right below it?
No.
What's the sink right below it then?
I don't remember. This is all high voltage, so you've got. I don't remember the circuit. I need to look it up. I don't want to say it wrong.
Okay, fair enough.
But everything under there will hurt if you touch it the wrong way. So. Yeah, it's like a timing belt. It's fine now, but how long has it been there? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the 5 volt heatsink gets very hot. No matter how many LEDs you put in the back box, they just run hot. It's just turning 12 volts into 5 volts is a toasty experience. So I'm going to try to do this without needing
yourself.
A helper hand and also not breathe in the dangerous fumes. So what I did here too is I'm always tinning wires. I strip them back, I tin them. The solder I use does have a little flux, so it kind of carries some of the impurities out. But I also tin the leads of the capacitor, right? So we can get a good, easy solder connection. I will position it. Let me get this oriented better. It's upside down, but I will orient the capacitor this way. So the pertinent information is facing up. So it makes more sense. Or sometimes I also like to put the, this and the polarity indicators up. It just makes me feel better. I'm probably going to cut this Brady tag off of the ground test point because I want to add a goofy Brady tag to my collection of circuit board fixing stuff. Run a Zoogie like this. I will orientate it this way, make sure the wires are kind of happy, and I will run the zip tie around the groove in the capacitor. Cut it very flush so you don't cut your hands, and voila. I'm going to cut this thing off too, because like I said, I want to add it to my collection.
Besides, timing belts aren't that important. It's if you just need an engine that's got enough clearance between the valves and the piston.
Yeah, right? Non-interference engines. Yeah.
We need to make more pinball machines like rotary engines. That's what we need.
Hey, no problem. It's lit. Yeah, no, I agree. Rotary engines are awesome. And yeah, okay, Daniel brings up a good point, and I was wrong. He says that on his Centaur 2, the displays had a flicker, and the problem was the high voltage capacitor. I think that capacitor can fail in a way that it will take out the displays, but the one of the like 3 or 4 times I have had to replace that capacitor, the issue was that the displays were just flickering. So, not enough compression. I'm scared. My wife has an old Subaru Forester, and we bought it with a rebuilt engine. It was like actually done at a dealership, like new short block, new everything. But those Subarus, like you need to change the timing belt every 100,000 miles, or the thing literally will just grenade.
Yep.
I don't like Subarus. I will never own another one. But it is a nice wagon. I do like wagons. I wish in America we could get more wagons that don't cost $80,000 when you buy like a M5 or a E350 AMG Touring. Okay, we're gonna ground this sucker, and I think what we're gonna do now is I'm going to plug incoming power in, and we are going to leave all outputs disconnected. What I'm gonna do is I'm just checking for, we're checking for the correct voltages. I will also remove the
Scott.
Let's see.
Yeah, Kyle, to your point of the like keeping cars stock, I definitely like love the people that restore like race cars to original spec, and like I think that's my second favorite car show car to find is just like
stock rebuilt race car.
Yeah, like everything period correct, like, you know.
Yeah, I find that, well, and also like period correct hot rodding, I find that very fascinating too. My uncle, you know, back in the 60s had a really hot rodded 32 Chevy, or it was in the 70s. He had a 32 Chevy that had like a small block 400 in it out of an Impala. And, but it had this crazy like Offermeister, like, which is like a Volkswagen part company or something. Had like
Offenhauser?
Offenhauser. Yeah, he had like a quad 4 or quad 2 intake manifold. It was crazy, right? But he's rebuilding that car now, and he's rebuilding it with that era of hot rod part. I think that's fascinating.
So Offenhauser, I think they're still around, but like they do everything manual. Like they are, if you look them up on Instagram, they're a fantastic follow because they show you how they do everything and show like the old, like the original mold bucks that they use to cast these like intake manifolds or these like all these vintage hot rodding stuff. And they just have a bunch of pre-war manual machining centers that they're just like fly cutting everything, and it's crazy to watch.
That's so neat. Scott says he's a Evo guy that likes Subarus. Okay, let me take this back. I like Subarus. I love everything about my wife's Forester. I just do not like working on it. Everything other than changing the oil is a massive pain in the butt. And D'Angelo says, an Audi A6 2.7 TDI Estate. Oh, that's an awesome car. The only problem is, if you don't know, in America, any European car is essentially a luxury car. So they are way more expensive to maintain. Having that era of Audi is one of my favorites. I'd love to have an old Audi estate like that. What we're going to measure for first is 5 volts. If we don't have 5 volts, the game's not going to work. So I'm going to check for 5 volts first. I have everything unplugged. I forget the soundboard, the cheap squeak. I know that the Squawk and Talk makes its own 5 volts out of 12 volts, but I don't remember if the cheap squeak does. So we're going to be like extra careful. I don't think that's necessary because this game is in pretty okay shape, but we're unplugging everything, right? We're just running power into the solenoid driver board, and we're looking for voltage, right? We're gonna see if we get the correct things out. So I'm gonna power the game on. There's no smoke. Nothing is going to happen, again, because we have everything unplugged. I'm going to stick one of my leads underneath the ground strap in the head here. Because again, we're just looking to see if we have any voltage. I think TP3 is 5 volts on this game, so we will put that there. I have 4.94 volts. That's good. We will check for 12 volts here on the filter capacitor. We have 16.4 volts. Perfect. Again, that's unregulated voltage. So the reason we have 16 volts is it's coming off of the 12 volt winding of the transformer. It is going through a bridge rectifier, which through magic removes one wave of the AC and turns AC into DC. But it's unregulated, so it's coming straight from the transformer. You'll see that in manuals a lot. UV, unregulated voltage, and I don't know. Anyways, let's plug this thing in. Now that we know we have voltage, it's pretty safe. This computer is pretty clean. I would take it out, but for now I'm just going to leave it in the game while we just see if it works. I might not need to take it out and change any of the, or work on any of the header pins. So let's see what happens. We'll look for 7 flashes. Actually, I don't know why I took this away. Sorry. Hope you all aren't getting like crazy motion sickness. The little LED on the computer should flash 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have a perfectly working Spy Hunter. I know, I don't remember what all the checks are, but it's basically the computer checking the, it's like, hey, RAM, are you okay? Yeah. Hey, program, are you kind of responding? Yeah. Hey, PIAs, like, are you good? Yeah, you're cool. Hey, can I check for 43 volts to be present? I know that's the 5th flash. The 5th flash is 43 volts, and you can hear the flipper enable relay kind of click on. And then it's just kind of, it does a self-check. So it's nice because if you have a failing Bally MPU, you can kind of know where to look depending on how many flashes you get. So yeah, we have a totally running Spy Hunter. Now, again, my goal with this job was to get the electronics stable, right? The customer didn't want me to do a lot of the mechanical stuff. So the next step is I think I will remove the computer, but before we do that, we're going to do a lamp test. We want to make sure that we have all of our lamps working because we'll have to do some troubleshooting to see if we need to replace SCRs or if we have bad connectors onto the lamp driver board. Another really common problem on Bally games is we always have cracked solder on the back of our displays. So we will remove every single one of our glass plasma displays and resolder the pins on the bottom. So again, this is very basic Bally stuff. This is stuff you do before you turn the game on. There's a lot more troubleshooting to do on these games, but this is kind of going too easy, which I like. Let's do some displays, just so I could sit and read the chat and keep talking about cars with all of you. I used to be very, very, very into cars. Then cars were annoying because they were big. So I stopped doing cars and I got into motorcycles. Motorcycles were a lot more fun to work on for me. And that's what I did before I turned pinball into a full-time career. Restoring and working on 70s BMWs. Where'd the lockdown bar go? Here it is. But now I have a 2019 Volkswagen GTI, which I love and adore. It is a fun little go-kart. What's going on in here? No, I love the car talk, man. It's fun to talk cars.
Oh, it's fine.
Thanks for coming, Scott. Sorry I missed that a while ago. Trough lights on Twilight Zone's pretty cool, though, man. Adding lights is fun. I think it's funny because I had a customer that bought a Twilight Zone from us, and they would work, you know, every time you play a Twilight Zone, it's got the rocket ship and the robot and the slot machine, all that stuff, right? Every Twilight Zone has that crap. And this person, we've gotten to the point now where enough people don't see pinball anymore that they think that's stock. You know what I mean? Like, they were like, why does this one not have the slot machine? It's like, well, that's an aftermarket thing. It's like, oh, really? It's like, yes. This game has a gumball machine. What are you complaining about missing a friggin' slot machine? Come on. Let's see if I could get this to kind of zoom in. I wish we had another one of our nice video cameras so you could see a lot better resolution what's going on. But what we have here is we have a standard gas plasma display. I can see a couple digits look like they're slightly burnt. And I think this was working. But what we have, though, is our pins here, right? We get data and voltage coming into these displays through this header back here. And it's very common to have cracked pins on the end, and these are voltage pins a lot of the time, or ground. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the solder sucker. We're going to brush some flux onto here. We're going to suck up like 5 or 6 pins on either side and reflow them nicely to try to eliminate the flickeriness that happens when you have bummer displays like this. So there are issues with these displays, right, that I should have checked before we did any of this. You've got very common, the gas plasma display will go out. And if this is dead, right, if this does not work and if it's outgassed, just replace this. We sell the pin score displays, which are LED replacements. They're absolutely drop-in, plug-and-play. And with the Bally system, you are lucky enough where if you only have one dead gas plasma display and you don't want to spend $300 on a new set, you can replace just one because these all run individually. That being said, you can get in here and fix these things. You've got a decoding chip here that figures out what data, what position this display is and what data it needs to display. And then you've got all sorts of little drivers here that drive segments and digits. Segments are the little lines that make up each digit, and the digit as a whole has a driver as well. It's easy to repair these things, but you can't do anything if the glass is bad. Checking chat. Hey Ty, thanks for joining, man. How do I transport a pinball game? Okay, so I am the biggest jerk. I have only owned a truck once. And I have all of my friends do all of my pinball moving for me. I do feel slightly guilty, but you know, whatever. My wife has the Subaru though, so sometimes I'll move games in the Subaru, but it's actually, I'd rather move a game in a minivan or a wagon than a truck, just so you don't have to lift things in and out. Elusive Ninja, we're gonna have the only stock Twilight Zones. My Twilight Zone still has the batteries mounted on the board. That's how much of a weirdo I am. I love to work on cars. Oh, cool. Yeah, I think personally that's one thing that really got me into pinball was just the fact that it's mechanical, right? We all love that about pinball. And that's kind of what turned me on, is like, why shouldn't I do this for a job, right? It's a game. I love games. It's mechanical. I love mechanical things, and I love to fix mechanical things. And it's electronic, and I love electronics. And these electronics are old enough that I actually kind of understand what's going on. I don't need to go to college to understand how this stuff works. Ty, you have a golf wagon, right? Or is it a Jetta wagon? You still here? A truck with a lift gate, absolutely. The guy I used to work for, we had a big old Isuzu box truck with a lift gate, and it was lovely to move games because we just move games with the legs on. If you could strap them nicely to the wall, there's no reason to take them apart. Sorry, you're getting a lot of solder sucker in the camera right now. Matt, I'm sorry, I'm like talking my head off. What are you working on right now? Are you coding?
So right now, I just finished up creating the array for all my location names, and basically what I'm going to try to do is, as soon as you hit the scoop to trigger the, choose your location or choose your fare, it will pull up an index number that goes, show location 0, and then it'll pull the name from this array that will then get pasted into a line of code to actually, display the asset I need, or if you hit both flipper buttons, then start that mode, it will paste that name into the code so that it will open that mode and, eject the ball from the scoop, and you'll be on your way and playing. So it's just a lot of kind of cleanup work right now, because, it's making sure all the names are right in the array. And then now I'm to the point of, okay, I actually need to take the thing that's 400 lines long and figure out how I can make that copy and paste work and make it super efficient so that I don't have a lot of bloat.
Sure. Huh.
But
it's so fascinating. Do you have any?
And that's the beauty of where homebrew is right now, is that there's two main frameworks that everyone's using, which is Skeleton Game and Mission Pinball framework. Okay. And both of them lower the barrier to entry really low. And actually Scott and I were joking that I should make a TNA config file that you could actually plug a USB cable into a TNA and write your own rules as a homebrew test bed. And I'm like, I don't want to do that, in case that might upset the designer, step on his toes. And he's just like, forget it. Just do it.
Just do it. Do it so I don't have to. That's cool, man. So I guess those frameworks you're talking about, I mean, is this kind of so someone like me who really doesn't know any sort of coding or programming languages, I might be able to actually sit down and code something myself?
Oh yeah. I mean, one of these days I'll share you my GitHub of how I coded the machine, and you'll be able to see because everything is switch handlers. I run Skeleton Game because Skeleton Game, I just had more friends that were running it, so I could, lean on them when I needed it.
Sure.
So it's a little bit more code intensive. You need to know the basics of Python code, but Python is super readable. It's really logical. There isn't a ton that it isn't overly confusing. And once you get the building blocks of Skeleton Game, of that everything's a switch handler. So most things start with definition, switch name, active or inactive for a time, and then self, and then, hey, when that switch gets hit for that long, this is the line of things I want you to do. And from a higher, like you could probably write the code for like, Bobby Orr Power Play, Knight Rider, Blackout, heck, even Space Shuttle, like anything pre-System 11, you could probably write, in a day with very little code experience. And that's actually something that I'm hoping to do a video series on, which is take a Bali Knight Rider playfield, wire it up with multimorphic and fast pinball equipment, and show like, hey, this is how you do a simple game. Like, this is how both of the frameworks work, and how you can make it super walk-upable. That buy a cheap flash, and this is how you rewire it, and sand all the artwork off, and write your own rules, like do, and showing people how to do that and make homebrew a little bit more approachable. Because there's a lot of people that go, I don't want to design a game. They might be interested in the rule sets,
Sure.
I mean, heck, guys like Bowen, he's not designing a game, he's designing the rule flow, and then passing it on to the programmer to write the code for Rick and Morty. There's a place for everyone in homebrew, kind of. So it's kind of an idea I had for
that's
getting some people
incredible.
into it.
That's fun. That makes me feel a little less scared. I mean, I know it's not easy by any means, but the thing that is most daunting to me is coding the eventual game that I would love to finish penning out, right? So I don't know how to do any of that stuff.
Yeah, and that's kind of like why I thought of the video series, just like, because there's some people that are totally scared of like designing a game, like where do I put everything? And my game started with just a mimosa fueled sketch, and then I kept iterating on it, and it came out to be something that I think is fun to flip. I mean, it's a start, and but like giving people a way to go, like, hey, try a retheme first. I mean, you look at Julie in Canada. She rethemed a can't remember what game she rethemed, but she made it Wonder Woman, and it's a beautiful retheme. It's so much fun, and it's it's a great first step into homebrew. Or if you just want to do retheming and create your own rules but use someone else's layout.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of old games that would kind of benefit from that too. Like Flash. Great layout, kind of ugly. The solder sucker absolutely does make the same noise that the dragon makes in Dragon. You're totally right. It's so funny.
If only we could have like a soundboard that like Emoto can just start hitting, like Kyle talking about bent screwdrivers or tightening down nuts and bolts, and then the solder sucker noise, and
I know. So one of my coworkers, he's not super into pinball, but he really enjoys watching the PinTech thing, because he gets to learn about all the stuff that he's messing with at work all the time, right? And he told me, he's like, the first episode he watched is when we did one where we recapped Williams' power supply, and I was using the solder sucker, and he was like, I watched that, and like the first thing I thought that happened is I thought that you farted. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you had that thing in your hand, and when you hit the trigger, man, it just sounded like you farted. And I was like, oh man, I hope that's not what everyone thought. This game has a hodgepodge of crap in it. This is a much newer. This is the kind of the display board that you would see in this kind of game. It's single-sided. It uses this brown silicone or PCB kind of stuff on one side and this on the other side. This game has a lot of different parts in it. There's not a lot original, but that's fine. That means it might be reliable.
Oh yeah, and Brown Recluse to your point on the finding the line of code, that is that is painful. The one thing that makes your life easier is using debug statements, which again, I'm using Skeleton Game, which has like a logging system to it, so that I can at different points of the code tell it to tell me what it's doing. So if the scoop gets hit and then I need to check the status of like 5 variables or something, I can log all that and see it, so that if something breaks, I go, oh, it got to this point, this point, this point, and then stopped here. Okay, I think I know what I screwed up. That's a great thing that it has, and really makes your life easier. So if that's what's stopping you, like there's a lot there to help you from fighting those battles.
Those teeny bugs. Hey, take a look at this on. You have to wait to see it on Twitch, but this pin right here, I can kind of get it to focus where my finger is. It's the last pin, like right above Matt's head currently. Hold on. Focus, please. Again, it was focusing a second ago. Yes, okay. Someone saw it. I didn't have a chance to point it out, but there is absolutely like a really big solder crack right here. Let me try getting it to focus again. Oh, Emoto's doing something magical on my computer because she can hear us. Yeah,
put your finger over it and then pull it away, because if it gets the sharp focus contrast, it might kick it over.
You see that? You can kind of see it. There's a little ring. You see that little ring around the pin there?
Yep.
That's totally a cracked solder connection, and that is what these things are plagued with all the time. So that could be, I don't remember what that pin is. I think the second pin, or this is the last pin. But this pin I know is ground. But this pin has a big gnarly crack, and the next couple also have kind of gnarly cracks in them. So that is why we are doing this. It takes a long time, but it's worth doing. I am a big fan of these gas plasma displays. I mean, I just think they're really cool. I don't, in my games, I kind of take it as a sense of pride of having mostly gas plasma displays in them, because I like the original hardware. It's fascinating to me. But there's no benefit in this system to having the gas plasma displays, or the LED displays are better in every respect. The only time, there's only like 1 or 2 situations where having the LED replacement displays are detrimental, but you probably would never even notice it. And it's just in the animation, right? With LEDs, they're either on or off. But the coders were able to do some really interesting things by like, understanding the come on and how long it takes to like light a segment on one of those gas plasma displays. So like on the Bride of Pinball, right? There is when you're doing the heartbeat effect, there's like they kind of fade in and out, and it's really interesting. And you kind of lose some of that stuff with the LED replacements, but you probably wouldn't ever notice it if it wasn't pointed out to you. Let's see.
There needs to be more Nixie tubes in pinball.
Dude, right? I can only think of one.
I think there's only one game that has them. I think someone put them in a Star Trek too, didn't they?
Oh, really? Which Star Trek?
Bali. Yeah.
West Club. That's the name of the one with the Nixie tubes. It's a French game.
Yeah.
I've worked on one. We had one at the Pacific Pinball Museum in Alameda. It's an electromechanical game with solid-state sounds and Nixie tube displays. It is gorgeous, but it's not the most exciting game in the world, but man, it's an experience to play, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'd love to get this thing to a point where I can just be like, yeah, we did this in 3 or 4 hours. Like, next project. Oh, yeah. mTort says the gas plasmas take about 20 to 30 milliseconds to turn off. So I think roller games has a similar effect. Again, it's like, this is just like little teeny stuff that it's like, it's so barely noticeable. Most people don't even see it. But at the same time, I'd rather have a brilliant, bright display than one that does a goofy heartbeat effect you don't pay attention to. So, what kind of, are you going to run like total LCD on Motor City Taxi, or are you going to have any sort of external display?
Yeah, it'll be complete LCD.
I was going to say, like, it might be really cool to do like what Williams did with Taxi and have like an external kind of fare counter display, but they've already done that, so you have to come up with something cooler.
Yeah, I gotta figure out. I'm trying to figure out what I need to add to the game. I'm kind of getting to the point where, like, I fried my boards recently, so I need to get new boards to test out the layout. But yeah, I'm getting to the point where I want to like just get it knocked out and get it close enough that if I can convince like if I want to make it like a commercial product or not, like get it to that point and then be done with that layout and go on with knowing the things I know.
To make game 2 a lot more streamlined and effective.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned so much about what works and what doesn't, and you know, I want something with a little bit more verticality, because I was just like, I kind of want to start with a street level playfield for now, like keep it simple, keep as a short BOM, because it was something that, you know, I'd like to make a couple of them and try to sell to in Detroit. So
yeah, the city of Detroit absolutely needs that, don't they?
Well, I was thinking like the main businesses in Detroit, like since there'll be locations around Detroit, I'm like, you know, I bet I could make a case for this and charge twice as much as it actually costs to make. And for every one they buy, a second one gets donated to like a Boys and Girls Club or something, and do something like that.
That's awesome.
And just kind of try to play like the tax write-off game and see how I can make it beneficial for everyone to like win, and me to be able to say, hey, I made a game that was sold. Cool.
Yeah, yay. Now that you're a homeowner, you have to think about all these tax write-offs. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
This solder sucker is rather clogged up with a bunch of nasty gunk at the bottom. So let's remove our solder blob from the solder sucker. Oh, it's a big one. Oh, baby.
Amono's face looking at the Zoom, just like, what the heck are you doing is priceless.
I'm cleaning the solder sucker. Come on. Ugh. Let's see. Oh, mTort's dropping all sorts of halftone knowledges in the chat. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it is. It is. The fading effects are pretty magical. But again, you know, when it comes down to it, I'd much rather have a working display than I would have some neat fading effects on certain games. And that is why it is very fun to work with all the pin score stuff we do at Marco. We have a display for almost every single system. I mean, actually, nice. We do have a display for every system, just some of the unique ones that, like Millionaire, early F-14s, Bonsai runs. And I think Harley-Davidson uses a unique display. It's like, we've run those before, but they're so low volume, it's hard to justify getting more of them. Uh-oh. This is kind of annoying with this solder sucker because the hole is actually, it's not big enough to fit the 156 pins into.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of just have to get it off to the side and suck all the old solder off. This thing still sounds like it's struggling slightly. Might have to do a little deeper dive. These things are, they save you so much time, but they're a nightmare to get working sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I might need to take the back. Oh, shucks, I forgot to get out under here. Been screwdriver time. Yeah, man. Dude, I swear it is the best tool of all time.
Yeah, I can't remember where I got mine from. I think TPF when I bought an oscilloscope.
I'll make you one. We'll have a
Sweet.
custom bent screwdriver club. All you need to do is hold the big torch for me.
Ooh.
This thing might be a little saturated with nasty, so I'm gonna rip a layer off.
That reminds me, I need to order another oxygen tank. Thank you for reminding me, Kyle.
Wait, for your welding equipment, etc.
Yeah, I ran out of oxygen last week when I was cutting up something.
Better call air gas. All right.
Yep.
Stick this back in here. All right. Maybe this will be better. Yeah, that sounds nicer. Okay, let's apply more solder. We've got one more display to do. This is the most boring part of doing this. But hey, at least I have friends and all of you guys here to keep me company. I really enjoy working on customers' games, having an audience with a chance to teach, but also y'all keep me responsible. I could be sitting here listening to a podcast and zoning out, and also be like checking every email I don't need to look at on my phone, procrastinating. Shucks, I had like no pinball work to do for like a week, and now I've got more than I can possibly do in the time span I have allotted, so. All right. Yeah, the folks at one of our local barcades, we're lucky enough to have two. They're opening up to the public at the end of next week, and their pinball needs a lot of love. So I'm spending a lot of time over there in the next couple days getting all their games happy. Spent about 6 hours last night between Shadow and The Hobbit. And there's still more work to do. Okay, last display. What do we got going on? Yes, and I need to take more pictures of the left ramp assembly of Bride of Pinball for you. Absolutely will be done. I need to finish that Bride of Pinball. I need to get my LED order placed. I'm just being lazy. Get those LEDs in, put the new legs on, and let the customer come pick up the new toy. Or their old toy that works again.
Nice. I like that our view of that is right at the smoke exhaust of it, so it's just like stuff shooting out the side of it. It's like, oh, that doesn't look good.
Yeah, there's a lot of flux.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Let's get this display back in, and we'll make sure all the displays work. The other thing I forgot to do, there's another important voltage that we need to measure, and that is the high voltage. A common failure point on these Bally games is the high voltage system. It is not difficult to repair because the parts are still available, unlike the Williams stuff, which is not available. It's a very obsolete part. But one thing, there is part of the circuit, you've got a potentiometer in the circuit that allows you to adjust the high voltage. And either the potentiometer can fail or another part of the circuit will fail, and it will not allow you to adjust the voltage. And one reason you generally have games with a bunch of bad displays is because that section has failed, and the displays are taking a constant 250 volts, which burns them out very quickly. I like to set them between 190, 185, somewhere around there. They will still light up. They will be a teeny bit dimmer, but the displays will not die. Which is sad. To adjust the high voltage section, though, you do need to be careful. There is high voltage there. As it says, it can make you very uncomfortable if you touch things incorrectly. Let's do that now. I'm going to bring this camera over here. Come on. Long USB cable. Let's first let's look at the displays. They'll kind of light up, but we won't get any like scores or anything until the game like fully boots, right? Once the program's running. Why is this thing all cattywampus? Nope, other way. And rotate it. All right, let's turn it on. You might have heard the coin lockout relay clunking. Okay, so all the displays work, right? Or at least the default positions, right? Digits 1 and 10, and then on the credit match we have digits 1,000 and 10,000s. We will have to run a display test, but first let's go in here, and I'm going to measure the high voltage. You've got 2 test points in here. I don't remember which one's which. But one of them is unregulated voltage, and then the other is regulated voltage. So we can check and see how much voltage is being put out by this high voltage regulator, right? This thing, I think what this is this little dude here is what turns the 250 volts AC into DC. No, I'm sorry. There's a bridge rectifier on the board that turns it into DC, but I think this regulates the whatever voltage it is to where it needs to be. Anywho, one of these test points is for the unregulated, and the other one is for the regulated, which is on the other side of the pot. I'm going to get my small screwdriver to adjust the pot. We're going to stick the lead underneath the ground strap. We are going to stick one lead on a test point. I believe it's test point 4. I'm getting 240 volts there. Test point 2, I'm getting 180. So I'm wrong. Test point 2 is the regulated side. So to prove that, I can turn this pot, and the voltage does go down. I'm going to keep it around 182 volts, 183, 184, whatever. Under 190 volts will lengthen the remaining life of your gas plasma displays considerably. So that's great. That makes me very happy. We have a working high voltage system. We have a computer that is running the program, and we have a solenoid driver board that is doing most of its job. What else can we do in here? I mean, we got our soundboard, right? I think this switch will just test some sounds. Let's see. Ooh. Or maybe that's a reset button. I don't remember, but we have a test in software we can run through that tests sounds. Let's see here. Let's test the display since we were kind of working on displays. So we've got a display test in Bally. Push the coin door and the button in the coin door once. And that puts the game into lamp test mode. All controlled lamps start flashing. One more time, we'll light all digits. And we have digits that are coming out clear, crisp. We have drivers that are working. And they're not flickering, which is the common thing when you have bad solder on the back of the display. I notice here on player 4, we do have a comma and a million digit. That's a little goofy and weak, but generally what I'll do is if I only have one display that's being goofy is put that display in player 4's position. That is the position that is used like the least, right? So having number 1, 2 look nice generally is all you need. Do a solenoid test. They all work. There's not a lot of solenoids in this game. This game was from a time of like absolute austerity on Bally's part. You know, Pinball was not making money at this time. But this game's like, what, 84, 85? So they just were not putting tons and tons into the games, right? So we could count the solenoids. We have a solenoid expander down below. So that's, or we have general illumination relay, I think, right? We've got our flipper control relay in the back. So there's 2 solenoids. We have an outhole kicker. We have 1 slingshot. We have a drop target reset. We have a ball kick out saucer there, and we have 1 pop bumper. That is 7 solenoid drives out of a board that can do 16, 18, I think. We're going to set some of the settings. Actually, I'm not going to worry about setting the settings yet. I want to check the computer first. Let's see what kind of, let's make sure there's no corrosion. I'm pretty certain there isn't. Actually, let's bring this back. This is a pretty nice game. It's going to clean up nice, rather. The outside is kind of a, it's bad. This game also, again, from a time of austerity, right? The insert board is just press board. The cabinets are also made out of press board, and they very commonly will balloon out and get gross as soon as you sneeze on them. So this thing, I mean, right, you've got decals coming off all over the place. The cabinet on the bottom is pretty rough there. That's very par for the course for this era of game. But you do find them rather nice. This game sold well. Operators liked it. And again, from an era of pinball not doing well, this was a good game. It sold well. There wasn't a lot to go wrong with it. There weren't a lot of solenoids that you know, could burn up or go bad. Oh, and we have a coin lockout, so that's 8 solenoids. Sorry, I was thinking, it's like, wait, no, there's always one more. Players liked this game, right? It's like the operators bought it. And Bally and Williams, they operated very differently than Stern does now. They made games until they stopped getting orders for them, right? They don't sit on things like Stern might, or they don't expect distributors necessarily to sit on things like Stern does now. They made games until they stopped getting orders for them, and that's how many they made. So really, you know, if you want to sit and argue about what a good game and what a bad game is you can really take the data from how many they sold, and that is kind of a foolproof way to say this is a good game. Computer. It has a rechargeable battery. Put in a new battery that was put in. I'm going to ask the customer what he wants to do. I have some super capacitors I could put in here, and what that is installing a like a 1 microfarad, or I'm sorry, 1 farad capacitor where this battery would go, and the 1 farad capacitor would keep the charge for months before it ran out, and the RAM would forget what it needed to remember. I prefer using the capacitors on these over NVRAM or batteries, just because they're cheap and they're very easy to install on these games. Let me check and see which ones I have. I've got a couple that I can't find anymore that I really like, and I don't want to give that away on a game that is not going to belong to me. Let me see here. Any questions? Sorry, I've been ignoring the chat. Yeah. Mtort says, rare games are rare for a reason. Yeah, it's, I guess only in the excuse of like a game like Cactus Canyon. Like, is Cactus Canyon a very good game? In my opinion, not really. But Cactus Canyon was cut short to get the Pinball 2000 stuff on the line. So there is, you know, there is reasons and times when a low production game isn't necessarily a bad game. I only have the capacitors that I like. I'll leave it up to the customer. It takes 10 seconds to solder a capacitor in here, or I'll get one of the ones that has a configuration that I don't like as much as the ones I really like to install later. But yeah, I'm happy. It's time to start looking at lamps. I'm very happy we haven't had to replace any of our evil IDC connectors that are evil and need to go all the time. Sometimes we will on the lamp boards. I find that the lamp board IDC connectors are usually the bad ones in Bally games. Let's see. Mount this back down, and I might go wash my hands to get all of the nasty, nasty, dangerous stuff off my fingers. Let's see. Before we start working on other things that are equally as gross, but not necessarily poisonous. So, let's see. All right. I'm very, very pleased at how quickly this game is coming together, though. So, give me a moment. You know, another thing I would definitely do if this was my game is we would switch out the general illumination to a certain amount of LEDs. These games don't have the connectors used for the general illumination circuit on the rectifier board, which is in the cabinet. The connectors are rated better. They don't tend to burn as much, I guess is what I'm saying. So games like Viking that I have there that have the rectifier board like attached to the transformer, or like your game, Matt, right? Your power play. Mm-hmm. Those games, they burn the connector for the general illumination all the time. But it is still a good idea to replace some of the connector or the lamps with LEDs to reduce that current draw. And they never burn out, so it's a win-win situation. Let me, I'm gonna get the glass off really quick, and we're gonna start looking at lamps. Thankfully, this game does use a lot of circuit board mounted lamps. So we don't have to deal with like really, really lazy, picky sockets that plague a lot of other early Bally games. It uses mostly wedge-based lamps, and that's I would give the customer some LEDs. I mean, he might have some, but I don't have any of my, I don't have any wedge-based Comet 1 white LEDs right now, so I need to make that order tonight. Let's turn the game back on. Let's do a quick health check too. I really, again, my job was to get the electronics going, not fix the game. So, it looks safe. You need this lamp for this auxiliary driver here. This lamp supplies like, see this guy here? You might have, a lot of games will have this like, that use the solenoid expander, like Centaurs and Flash Gordons and stuff like that. Maybe, I think 8-Ball Deluxe does too, but this lamp provides like just enough of a load for whatever this does to do its job, just FYI. Oh, this game has a gate. I forgot, so that's 9 solenoids. Ah. Those end of stroke switches are just absolutely mangled. Jeez. What is that? Is that lube? No. Don't lube anything in a pinball game, ever. Well, not ever, but only certain situations require lubrication. Oh, this thing's broken. That's why this thing's mangled. Okay, so customer needs to order a new end of stroke switch. We're missing the bottom blade here, where this spacer is supposed to rest on. This guy touches the bottom blade, which pushes all these other blades up, such as how it works here. Looks pretty good though. Nothing's burnt. This game's pretty simple. Let's put it in lamp test and we will see where we're at regarding feature lamps. All right. That bar is missing a spacer. I don't like using prop rods, but it's going to be good for camera. Oh, sorry. I guess I should see if anyone's saying anything, too. No cam over the sink. I know, right? You could have watched my hands get real clean. Yeah. Twitch family community standards prevent that. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that is why Centaur and 8-Ball Deluxe Limited Edition have those goofy cabinets. As Rapid Fire. Rapid Fire is a fun game, but I understand why it didn't do well on location. You're gonna hold me to that scrubbing for 20-second standard. I recited the opening monologue to Star Trek, Space, the Final Frontier. Let's see. Time check really quick.
4:06.
4:06. Wow, it's taken a long time for me to do all this, but that's good. Yeah, I guess I could probably finish up in an hour, and that gives me enough time to go and have a beer down on the river. So let's see. We're going to push our button in the coin door once, and that will get all of our feature lights flashing. Got one out in the head, but I don't need to worry about that. Technically, this game doesn't have GI, I guess, in the playfield. I always forget about that. But what we're really worried about is I'm worried about the insert lights, right? They're very dim, but that's also probably because the playfield's very dusty.
Hey, you.
Let's stick the camera inside the game. We also probably have not only dusty inserts, but probably dusty bulbs too. It's a little dim. When you do run a game, especially a Bally game in lamp test like this, you're overtaxing the voltage that powers these things, right? In the real world, you're going to have like 3 or 4 lamps on all the time, right? So that's why you will notice that some of these guys they will appear a lot dimmer. This is going to be hard to do. I mean, I could always remove this board just to have better visuals, but we might suffer through this one because if we find something interesting like a bad SCR, that'll be better content than Kyle wiggling light bulbs, but this one's being annoying. Hold on. This is not the greatest YouTube content or live streamable content at this point. But this is a very important thing, right? If your light bulbs are not working, you won't have a very fun pinball game. These sockets are goofy. They're very cheap, and they can have problems. The way Bally wired these things up is you have a feature lamp bus wire. Let me look on the... So all these wires that go to the lamp sockets individually, these run to the SCRs on the lamp driver board. You've got a staple wire, right? You see this wire here that is going to the metal wire here, which is soldered to each of the lamp sockets and travels on a path. What that is it's that supplies the voltage, right? So we have our lamp voltage going to this wire, and then every time one of these lamps needs to be called up, they're provided a path to ground. So they always have voltage to them, but they are triggered with they're triggered on via ground. Just FYI. A lot of times these circuit board lamps, they have they have little holes underneath each socket to kind of show if the light bulb is lighting up. These ones do not. Most of them are working. This is very nice. I'm very happy. I don't want to have to go and change out SCRs. It's not the end of the world if I had to. Oh, hey, you know what? An easy way to check, even though they're kind of dim, Turn the lights off. The only time I could ever say this building has too much light. This place is super dark. All right, give me 1 sec.
But that's what you have all the colorful lights for, Kyle.
Yeah, right? All the lamps are working. It's just, it's really struggling to keep them bright with the, I mean, having this massive amount of lamps on at the same time. So this is nice, actually. Very happy. The customer will not need to go buy a bunch of new boards because all of the circuit boards in here are just fine. Let me turn the lights back.
Here.
What's up?
TNA.
Yeah, Scott's not even here, and we're focusing on TNA.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to send you parts for TNA. I know you're not a huge mod guy, but I think you'll like the back glass one because it doesn't stand out as a mod until like you see it work, and then it just looks stock.
Oh no, I totally want that. I think that's super cool. I don't want a bunch of plastic toys plastered all over my pinball game, so when you hit one the wrong way, they fall off, right? Like, that's the kind of mod that I don't like so much. But air horns and cool flashy lights.
That's what I want to do for Rick and Morty is make a custom wacky arm inflatable tube man to mount under the coin door. Like, so when you hit certain things, all of a sudden it just puts a wacky inflatable tube man between you and the game, and it just starts hitting you in the face.
See, now that's the kind of pinball mod I can get behind.
That's a pinball Olympics mod right there.
I think we're going to be good. With this game, you can't test lights individually like you could like on a WPC game, right? But I'm seeing like 90% of them light up. I only see one, or saw one that was not working well. But this is the time when having an air compressor is amazing. You take an air compressor and you just go and blow all the dirt off all the lights and clean out all the inserts. But unfortunately, I don't have an air compressor. Cool, okay. I'm gonna call this one like 90% there. Customer can do the rest of the work. I am not going to spend a bunch of time doing it. Nice.
Nice job, Kyle.
Hey, thanks. I do want to, in this case though, since it's like not a game that I'm going to be finishing or something like that, the game will be finished up here by, again, the customer is one of my friends. I will just let it run for a while, see if it crashes. I also want to program something into the memory so we can see if the battery does something. So yeah, did anyone learn anything, maybe?
Yeah. I learned I need to get a solder sucker.
Yes, you totally do. Have any way to figure out the gauges for wire on Bally 1980s machines? Looking to repair the flippers and cable could use to be replacing. So, you know, actually, I don't know. I know Williams stuff by heart, but I'm pretty sure the Bally stuff is the same. Yeah, so what you're gonna do for your for flippers and stuff like that, like anything that carries voltage, use an 18 gauge wire. Anything that does not carry voltage is most likely a 22 gauge wire, I'm pretty sure. I'm looking at the end of stroke switch wires and the flipper power, etc. And that all looks like it's 18 gauge. So that's pretty common in the world of pinball. Bally games actually also have a very important fuse I neglected to check. The under playfield fuse. There is one fuse underneath the playfield that fuses all solenoids. So, pro tip, if you ever have a customer saying, or I guess in most everyone else's cases, if you ever have a customer saying, I've got this Bally game, or I've got Paragon, and oh, my mic came unplugged. And I'm back. If I have this Paragon and only the flippers and slingshots work, or something, generally that means your under the fuse playfield fuse is broken. And also, generally this fuse is never correct. It is a 1 amp slow blow. This game had, wow, a 1 amp slow blow. Amazing. This time it was right. Cool. Now if I had a bunch more time, I'd start on his flash. But I might bring the flash over here just to take a look at it. Since I do have a hot solder sucker, I could start some of my work and get the connectors off. But let's program something into the game, see if the battery holds. Hey, no problem. Give it a shot. I'm pretty sure I'm right. I'm not great at eyeing that kind of stuff, but it looks similar enough in gauge to what Williams used or in the, in the 90s. So. But generally, again, like signal wires, like for the lamps, the ones that actually send the grounds, those are going to be a smaller gauge, well, smaller diameter, but a higher gauge, so 22. And stuff that carries like voltage or solenoids or lamps is going to be 18. And that's why I like these old Bally games, is generally they don't take much to get going. This is an atypical case, right? This game does not have a badly corroded computer. If this was my game, I would spend time trying to fix the computer. If this was a customer's game, it really is not worth their time to pay me to fix the computer. I don't even know how much they are on our website. Can someone check how much is like a brand new Alltech MPU? I think they're like $200 and something. But the thing is, if you brought the game to me here, I would charge you $100 an hour or so for labor, for the most part, right? 2 hours to try to fix some corrosion damage, that probably isn't enough. And at that point, you still also might have a computer that is flaky. So it's kind of in your best interest to just buy a new computer when you have corrosion, and then take it on as a project to repair your old one at that time.
Yeah, Kyle, the Alltech Ultimate MPU and test card combo is $234.95.
Yeah, and you don't even need the test card 90% of the time. So I think like the standard Alltech is like just the computer's like $200. That's what you need to get. I like setting this game up hard, but I'm going to let the customer, again, decide how he wants to set the rules to the game. But in Bally games, sometimes you need to activate certain things. I know that, I think it's like every option after setting 16 will allow you to like turn on the sounds, etc. Oh, hi, Chuck. Hey, thanks for joining. Yeah, again, it's like, if I can explain this better, it's just, again, I could fix it. Could I fix it for less than what an Alltech would cost? Maybe. If I was able to fix it for less than an Alltech would cost, there's like no guarantee that the thing would be reliable. It could work for a month, it could work for a year, it could work for a week, and it might have bugs, right? And I always try to push a new computer on people, not to make money, but just to let the customer have the best possible experience with their game, right? Okay, in this game, it is, I think you do set every setting after 16 to 3, and that generally gives you the most acceptable settings on a pinball game. For some reason, people were still weird about sounds at this point. So the default option for sounds is just chimes and dings and boongs, and it's so boring. This game has Peter Gunn's soundtrack. It's like the coolest thing ever. So number 16, I'm going to just set this to 3. I don't know what number 16 is, but still 3, 17, 3, and then 18 makes most scoring will have a noise and effect with background. That's what we want. 1, 2, 3. The computer will now reset because that's usually the last option. I don't know what 19 does, or 20, whatever. let's see if this battery works. I'll shut the game off for a hot minute. The pot's really dirty. Let's see. I think it was safe to power the game on. I think just one of the flippers had a screwed up EOS switch. This soundboard also does have a volume control on it, I believe. Maybe that's rather low. One thing I would do to this game, with the customer's approval, is just replacing all the electrolytic capacitors on it. They sound better. Replacing the volume pots also, generally a good idea. Yeah, it's getting louder. These ones might actually be okay. But again, a longevity thing. I always try to repair things so I don't have to go on a service call later. So we'll hear the best part of the game. Ooh, there's a lot of hum. That sounds like crap. It didn't play the whole intro to the song either, which is odd.
Peace out, Kyle. I gotta head out. But let me know when you guys are streaming again. Would love to join. Man.
I appreciate you being here for some fun banter.
Absolutely. Talk to you guys soon.
See you later, man. Have a good one. There's a bit of a hum nastiness. It could have some bad capacitors. I want to double check. Hey, no problem, man. I really enjoy trying to spread some knowledge, so hopefully someone's learning something. I think I've read somewhere on the internet there are 2 types of art on the playfield of Spy Hunter, 1-on-1 without mesh and wire cubes on the background. Huh. I don't know. Honestly, again, I've seen a lot of Spy Hunters, and I always seem to remember there being that mesh on the back. Does that come in on the camera at all? Might be hard to see. There might be a little glare. Kind of that wire grid. But that would be interesting if there were 2 versions. I've just never really paid attention. I think that's kind of cool. Let's see. I want to see if we can verify if the pot, when I say pot, it's short for potentiometer, which is it's basically a resistor that you can change the value of. So it's a volume knob, right? More resistance would mean lower sound volume, where less resistance would mean louder. Sometimes they get dirty, and you can turn them up and down, and wipe away some of that dirt. But if that fails that test like 3 or 4 times, you stop it and you just put a new one in. Don't waste your time. I do believe we might need to replace the electrolytic capacitors on this thing. Much louder, which is nice. The pot was probably really dirty, which could have also caused an issue. So let's try starting the game again. Man, that's so weird because the whole intro to the Peter Gunn song when you start a game. Oh, okay. Hey, check it out. It was not we weren't getting sound hum. The solenoid that holds the gate open was actually humming. So I don't like working like this. I don't like having the customer say, well, only do this. Like, I want to fix the whole dang thing. And this game's so simple. We're like 90% of the way there, right? These things could use grease a lot of the time. Again, when you grease this, you're greasing the armature. You're not greasing anything to do with the solenoid, just what the solenoid is moving. Let's take a look, and I can kind of show you what I'm talking about. It's just a basic ball gate. It's a relay, right? Like an electromechanical game. It uses a relay coil, which, when energized, will magnetize this plate against the coil, which thus closes the gate, right? It's magnetized now, so I could try to break it by pushing up on it, but it's a strong coil. So And then when it magnetizes, it moves the whole thing shut. This switch here tells the computer what state it's in, I believe. When you qualify for it to be open, again, this game has a very strange outlane layout, but that's how the game knows if it's closed or open. Going through the in lane will close it. You get one chance with it. Why it was getting stuck though, that's a little worrisome. Let's slam tilt the game and mess with it a little bit. Of course, someone has disconnected the ability to slam tilt the game. That's annoying. Or the game is tilted out, but I mean, maybe it needs to see the ball roll over the... Actually, I guess we should be doing a switch test. Make sure that switches are reporting. I'm kind of jumping the gun. This game doesn't have a switch there. I might have killed the game. Let's see. There are states, and there could be a possibility sometimes in these older games to slam tilt, but the sound continue going. That could be indication of a problem on the soundboard. 4 credits. Start a game. It kicked the ball over. The gate is still stuck open. Now it energized shut. I want to look at that, but I have no flippers. I don't have the skill shot lights going here. Do any of the other switches work? No. Huh. Ooh, interesting. Program's running, or might be running. The computer, can I get it into test? Ooh, I like this now. It starts a game, but once it gets into game, it gets stuck doing something. Let's see. Sorry, let me check the chat now. Oh, hey, okay, let me pay attention to the chat now. Yes. Please ask a question. I have a rubber seal head at the end of the plunger used in a plastic syringe. The seal head, I think, is... at the end of... I'm not sure... Sorry, Test Bishop. I'm trying to read that like 3 times, but my brain is not comprehending what's going on. A hydraulic syringe. I don't know, man. I think a lot of times in those sorts of situations, it might be best to replace the O-ring, but I only fix pinball machines. I might not be the best person to answer that question, but if you're not afraid to replace that part, I mean, try it, and if it doesn't work, then you know you just have to go replace it, right? Has a seal, huh? I learned how to test high voltage in my 8-ball deluxe, and also that I could flip the playfield up all the way to change bulbs. Don't worry about that. A lot of people don't, though, right? It's not common knowledge. A lot of people are so amazed when I flip their pinball machines up, and they're like, wow, that's how you do that? It's like, yep. That's how everyone's been doing it for a while. Okay, so what I want to do now, when I was working on the solenoid driver board, I did re-solder the connections at the, what's it called? The flipper enable relay. The flipper enable relay was soldered in there very poorly. It looked extraordinarily amateur, and I didn't like it. Now, I was assuming that that's what I would jump to, but I've also realized once I get into a game, nothing is reporting. So what I want to do is I really want to take this computer out once again, and I want to make sure we don't have any cracked solder. I'm pretty 99% sure I did that, but I want to start there. It's strange how the program is running, but nothing is responding, right? So the way I'm thinking about it is the computer's working. It did its job. It started the program. But it is not responding to any outside information coming into it from the playfield. I believe on the Bally computers there is a plug that deals with just dedicated switches. And I'll explain that. What we'll do is we'll pop out the manual and we will go over what I am thinking, and then we will see if it is an accurate diagnosis. This computer looks clean, and I thought I checked it for cracked solder, but maybe I was rushing. Okay, so let's look at this computer really quick. I think I have enough time to do a little bit more instruction here before I'm going to reward myself with a beer, and then go to the arcade and continue fixing other pinball machines. Where'd the manual go? I want to make sure I remember what each of these connectors is for. What are your thoughts on people bypassing the WPC interlock switch? Working on a demo right now. Demo man and the past operator took the wires off. I don't like it. I mean, it might be annoying to some people, and maybe that modification to that demo man was done decades ago, right? When that was probably one of the first games that started using the interlock switch, and that guy might have been super old school, and it pissed him off that he had to pull that switch or close the coin door. Honestly, I know that there was a couple games in the middle of the Williams era at that time that used the interlock switches that you had to close the door. They didn't have the 3-position pull-out one. I mean, replace it with that. That's what I do. But I like to have things working the way they should. It's just safety, I guess. If you're comfortable, I mean, it doesn't matter, right? If you know that it's that way and you are confident you won't shock yourself, then that's fine. But I just like to have things stock. I don't know. Let's see here. We are going to find the diagram that I want to find. Give me a sec, y'all. Wiring diagrams. That's the lamp driver. This is actual wiring diagram. This is the connector overview. So this is handy. So we're going to look insert MPU. We can gather a lot of information off of this page. I need a much larger bench to do this on in the future. This is crowded. We've got our Bally MPU here. We've got 4 headers, J1, J2, J3, J4. That's how they number them. So this board is in the Bally naming nomenclature. It's A4. I don't know why, but that's what they call it. You can see this is the kind of the wiring diagram. It tells you each connector, where it goes and what wire color should be in that connector. So we've got the MPU is called A4. The lamp driver is A5. The voltage regulator, I know that one's called A3. The insert is A1, whatever. A4. So J1, what this is showing here, J1 is a 28-pin connector. J1, pins 1 through 28. Looking at this, what this tells me is where this stuff goes to, right? So on J1, pin 1 is going to be a wire that is colored 80. In Bally, 80 is black. So 8, 0, black with no trace. So if we had a wire that was called 81, it would be black with a red trace. The first wire is the color, or first number is the color of the wire. The second number is the trace. So this is a way you can go and rebuild your connectors if you forgot where one went, or if you feel like something might not be in the right place. You can always reference your manual. There are times when this is not correct, but it's a good overview. Anyways, Elusive Ninja says, anyone else get fed up with fuses and buy every single value in 20 and 30 millimeters? Duh, you gotta have them all around, especially when you've got an arcade like yours. So what we're going to do here, is I know that this plug on the Bally game, this is for all of your display information, right? And we could prove that by going here, connector J1, all of these pins go to A1, J1, right? So A1 is the insert. And J1 is player 1, display. A1, A1, right? So A1, J1, 4. J1. This is confusing. We're not going to talk about this because there's all sorts of weird multiplexing, blah, blah, blah. But for what it's worth, right, most of this stuff here is going to address your displays, right? So we've got 8 bits of data, I believe, that go to address the displays, maybe 9, I don't know. Then we've got information that goes to transmit to the lamp board, right? So A5, which is the lamp driver, and then we've got, there's a lot of stuff. Okay, so this is data. This is information that is being sent out to other things, right? The program is saying, hey, light the extra ball button. That goes here. The lamp board figures out, hey, I need to light this through instruction from the processor program, blah, blah, blah. Okay, J2. J2 is this connector here, and I know that this one is switches, I believe. Let me double check. Okay, so this is the switch matrix on this one. You've got 4 strobes, so 4 columns, and you have you have 5 columns and 8 rows. So let's really quick just look at the switch matrix, which I believe is at the beginning of the schematics here. They do something goofy with it, I think. But here you go. You've got your strobes, which are your columns. Strobe 0, strobe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you've got your 8 returns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's your switch matrix. That switch matrix takes up, what, 6? Basically the whole connector, including keys. So that's all stuff that is taking information in from the playfield at J2. Right? We've got J3. J3 is the, I'm sorry, this is J2. This is where the switch information comes in. This is J4. They do it clockwise. It's stupid, I don't know why. J3, bottom right corner. J3 are your dedicated and cabinet switches. So the first pin is your cabinet test switch. You've got your cabinet strobe. So the test switch has its own dedicated line to the computer. It overrides basically anything. Your strobes and your returns. And these, a reason your cabinet has a switch matrix is for things like coin doors, start buttons, etc. So that's what that's there for. J4, which is this guy here. This is like power input and all of that stuff. So you can see here J4, a lot of these things go to A3, right? The first 8 pins. A3 is our voltage regulator / solenoid driver. So that is where we're getting our inputs of the 12 volts, 5 volts, and 43 volts that the computer needs to run. And then there's some other stuff that heads out to A2. A2 is, I don't remember. Anywho, what I'm wondering is why we aren't getting any switch inputs from the playfield, right? Everything that comes in on J2. We are having, these work, right? We were able to do the self-test. We were able to get the game to add credits, etc. But we're not able to have the game take in any input from the playfield. That could be because the computer's crashing. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Might not be today. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. Hopefully someone's learning something. Have you replaced a rectifier board on any of your streams? I have to replace it in my Silver Ball Mania, and your streams are super helpful for the flipper replacement. Hey, thanks. I like the compliments like that. That makes me feel good. I haven't replaced a rectifier board in an old game yet. It's not hard, but it is kind of daunting because you need to unsolder wires and put them back in the correct location, right? So that's something we should do. Unfortunately, I don't have any games that need that done to. Viking works. Xenon Kings of Steel don't have that board. Lady Luck doesn't have that board. Meteor does, but Meteor works fine. I repair those things a lot, and I understand a lot of those things are out of the realm of repairability. They're really gross, so I'd like to, though. You know what, actually, I do have a Silver Ball Mania here, but it's kind of a rough game. I'll figure it out. I would like to do that. That's good instruction. I've been really working on trying to get a Bally game that actually needs work, that I can do everything to show on stream, because I love Bally games. But I'm glad that helped you. Thank you. I know that I think Chuck Webster was doing a Bally rectifier board build and maybe install a couple weeks ago. Maybe check and see if you can find that. The hardware store. It's fun, man. The fuse sections are beautiful. I've been trying to order more fuses for us at the shop, too. We have our normal stock, but I've been trying to work on getting Jersey Jack games to have their own fuse kits now, and I had to order all sorts of weird time delay stuff that Williams never used. So you're walking around the hardware store and people have to listen to my voice? Oh, boy. We're going to end this up pretty soon because I do have a hankering for an adult malt beverage, but let's check. This isn't as common, right? I'm thinking there might be some overarching weirdness going on, or we're having a computer that's crashing. Thing is the computer talks to the soundboard. The computer says, hey, soundboard, go, right? Like, hey, I'm starting a game, so play, do your thing. But the soundboard is an independent computer. This computer can crash while that thing can continue working, which is annoying. So what we need to do is we need to see if this computer is crashing when I'm starting a game. I want to check these things first before I plug it back in and start looking. But that's what happens when you're like, oh, it was so easy. It's never easy. These look okay. They aren't tarnished. I could sit in here and I could double check how the game reads switch inputs and stuff like that, how the strobe works. One thing that is handy on these old crusty games too, move this camera a little bit, press on the chips, or sometimes like pull a chip up just a teeny bit, and sometimes there's just a little crap between the leg and the socket, and pulling the chip up like a teensy bit and pressing it back down can clear up some of that nastiness. Don't ever pry on chips if you can avoid it. I'm going to try putting this here on this header and see if I can use the bent screwdriver to kind of come in and lift up on this. This is the processor. It's the actual little brain of the computer. It's not really moving much. These are down here are called PIAs, MC6821s. The 6821 is kind of the strong man of the processor. The processor can't tell things to do things, but what it does is it tells the 6821 to do those processes. So this is talking to this, and then this thing is doing what the processor is telling it to do. So this one might control switch activity or something. I'm going to explain everything in super layman's terms because, again, I'm not an engineer. But then you've got RAM, 2 RAMs in this game. You've got a 5101 and a 6810. You've got your program here. These computers were designed to run on like a bunch of 16-bit chips. But then as technology went on, it was much easier to run one large chip. They became so much cheaper. Back in the day, it was much cheaper to run, 5 smaller ROMs. But then as technology progressed, it was easier just to use one, like 32-bit ROM. Hubert with no screen. Oh, that's sad. Yeah, those Gottlieb games are crazy, aren't they? I'd love to have a Qbert at our local arcade. We've got 2 barcades in town, and one of them really only has pinball, and the other one has some video games, which I love, the classics. And we were talking last night about getting Qbert, and it would be so much fun. I love Qbert. Yeah, I'm not convinced that we have a problem there. I'm convinced that maybe we have a crashing computer. So in this case, right, this is a very clean computer, but it might have a logic level problem. It might, right? I'm theory crafting at this point. I have no idea what's going on, and I'm not going to spend time trying to figure it out right now because I do want to get going. But this is the great time when having another computer is a godsend, right? I can go grab a new Altec, which I always keep 1 or 2 on hand for stock. I could go grab a new Altec, program it for Spy Hunter, pop it in, push start, and if everything starts working, I know the problem is here somewhere. And then that leaves me with the ammunition to ask the customer if they'd like me to try to fix it, or if we want to just keep the Altec in there. This computer has no corrosion damage, which is lovely. And that's why I'm thinking that there might be something else goofy going on, and we don't have a computer problem. The nice thing about having socketed chips, though, I could go grab another one of my working Bally computers, and I could swap the processor, I could swap the PIA, I could swap the other PIA, and we could see if that clears the problem up as well, and level it down to like one of these components. Maybe we have a corrupt ROM. Not likely, but we'll see. This is why pinball repair is exciting sometimes, and why I don't like to just use the blanket, like replacing boards is bad. First off, you know, there's nothing wrong with replacing a boards. Not everyone can repair a circuit board. Not everyone wants to learn how to do that. Not everyone wants to buy the equipment to do that, and that's totally fine. But you have a problem where people like to just throw circuit boards at the problem. Oh, the game isn't working, or, you know, obviously I need a new computer. Well, you might not need a new computer. You might need a new power supply, right? Are you getting voltage to the computer? Well, I don't know. I just put a new computer in. Well, you know, your old computer was probably fine. It's actually the power supply. So it is good to have good boards on hand. I have boxes and boxes of tested good boards for a lot of different pinball systems that I use for troubleshooting. But using new boards is also handy because generally they aren't bad because they're new. This is curious. So what we're going to do is I'm going to fire the game up real quick. I have an oscilloscope here. I could mess with stuff, right? One easy way to see if a game is running is to watch the switch strobes, right? If a computer is still running the program, it will still be strobing the switch matrix, being like, hey, are you working? Hey, anything here, anything here, anything here. So I could try to get the game in its crashed state and see if we have life there. I'm going to add a credit. That coin switch is not doing anything. What about this one? That one's working. Okay, another way we can tell too is like, and again, the computer isn't crashing in like a reset situation either, it seemed like. It seemed like it died in state. So we had like, you know, the displays were still showing something, but we can start a game again. It is calling up a light, right? This is supposed to be on, this is supposed to be on, that is supposed to be on. One thing I do know is the skill shot light should be pulsing. It should be going green, yellow, yellow, green, yellow, yellow, green, yellow, yellow, and that's not happening. So something, it may have crashed in state. And again, the sound, the computer, the soundboard runs independently from the computer. Maybe there's a plug that's halfway unplugged down there, but that's not likely. I don't want to think that the computer's crashed. But not seeing life out of this is peculiar. Unless that's a setting that can be turned off in the game. Sorry, let me look at this really quick. The skill shot is like a big part of the game. I mean, I guess another way we could do it, right, is we know we have dedicated switches working. I should be able to add a credit to the game while we're kind of in game, right? and I can't. I'm going to verify that really quick by jumping over to my Xenon. I'm gonna start a game really. Where'd I put my keys? Oh, they're still in Meteor. Give me a sec. We're gonna go try to start a game on Xenon and try to add a credit. And the dedicated switches, right, are dedicated, right, because the computer needs to know what's happening with those switches because they're crucial. You know, if someone was holding the flipper and someone's like, hey, like, you know, you're in ball 1, I want to add a game, they should be able to cradle up, add a quarter, and not have someone lose out on their money, right? So what I'm thinking is like that should be responding, and that's making me think the computer has crashed. So Xenon is on free play, well, it's set to low replay. So I'm going to add a credit, or start a game. Starts. I have 39 credits. Now I'm going to hit the switch, and it adds a credit, as I thought. I think we have a crashed computer. So the easiest way to test that now, that I've kind of proven a little proof of concept like that, is by just put an alt-tech in there and see what happens. But we'll do that at another time. Maybe not on stream, but you're right. On chip by Williams, Fishtails, no. There you go. Yeah, it's funny, right? Sometimes just pushing down on the chips will make things work like that. Not often, but it can. Let me see if I have an alt-tech available. Let's just try to prove something on the stream for the people that have stuck around. But I have so many boxes of crap. There's White Star boards. We've got another power driver board. I should just sit down and get all these power driver boards working. That's a WPC computer. I have a bunch of displays. Williams power supply. Gottlieb power supplies. I might not have an alt-tech anymore. That's weird. I need to buy a couple. WPC 95 boards. Lots of crappy Bally computers. What's this? It's a System 11 power supply. This box says Bally solenoid driver untested, looks good. Lots of random pinball expletive word. Got a bunch of Gottlieb score reels in here. That's a solenoid driver. Huh. Okay, well, unfortunately, I don't have an alt-tech in any of my games currently either. I have one of those other computers that one dude made, but I don't want to take that out of my Meteor right now. Okay, we'll have to do some testing at another point, but we got somewhere, and we have learned that we might have a problem with our computer. The way to really tell, again, would be to grab our oscilloscope and watch for signs of life. So yeah, does anyone have any questions? Is there anyone still here? I'm glad someone, or some of y'all stuck around. That was kind of fun. Got a bit of work done. It is annoying when you can't actually fix the entire thing in one sitting, but I knew I wouldn't get away that easy. I want to see, I mean, I guess I could always just check one of the strobe pins. I was going to say I want to check on like one of the chips, but you know what? I think I could do this in 5 minutes. The oscilloscope is just right here. Let's see if we can do something, because that will at least give me information to tell the customer. Actually, I have a logic probe. Heck. No, the logic probe doesn't need external power. I'm not going to use the logic probe. I don't like them. I like my scope. Let's give this the 5-second final check up here. I don't use oscilloscopes much. I'm not going to pretend like I really, really know how to use them 100%. I mean, I know what they're for, and I know that this is a way I could check for signs of life from a computer, right? But this is a tool that I've only recently really learned how to use from the guy I used to work for. There's just not a lot of opportunity to need one when you're working on a pinball game, right? As most of the time you're replacing a board, right? You're not needing to check for signs of life. It's very specialized equipment in the sense that, you know, the people you send your boards off to might use them. Usually, for the consumer repair, a board is either good or bad, and you figure out where to go from there. I could take the MPU from Xenon, but I'd like to use a new computer that I can program to run the Spy Hunter program. Xenon does not use just the single ROM like this computer is. Okay, so again, J2 is our switch matrix, correct? Yep. Okay, we're going to fire up the scope here. And get a camera in place. Are you going to load? Press any button to continue. Any. Where's the any button? There it goes. Okay. We have an oscilloscope. We're going to turn the game on. So again, we're looking at our dedicated switches, or our playfield switches. And I will most likely I'll have to double check that there's no connector that we're missing either, but let me get this guy onto is pin 1 a strobe? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are strobes. Okay. So we've got signs of life. This is the computer sending a check, right? This is the computer saying, you know, hey, is anything happening on this switch column? The columns are always checked, and the returns are sending the signal back in, right? So when a switch closes in the particular spot, the switch column is always being like, okay, you. It's kind of like a conductor, right? Like looking to see what's going on. Let's do this then. We're going to start a game. I'm wrong. We still have signs of life. Okay, so the computer is it's doing its job. There's just something else going on that I don't need to poke my head around at. So so now I know though, right? The problem with these switches essentially is between the switches and the game, right? The switches and the MPU. There could be something unplugged. I don't think this era of game has a plug to disconnect the switches. But as I can see, we do have something going on, which is good. That means we don't have a computer problem. So there's one way to kind of eliminate it. I think. I can say that with almost 100% accuracy, that we do not have a computer problem. But I am still curious why our lights are not roving for the skill shot. But that's something that could be throwing me down the wrong path. We need to figure out why the switches aren't responding first. There could be something weird going on. I'm still also concerned, again, why I can't add a credit. So we'll figure it out. I will be here tomorrow to figure this out. I might not stream tomorrow unless everyone says yeah, I want to spend 4 hours with you. But anyways, I'm gonna clean this stuff up and check for that plug one time. Are you still here, Emoto? Have you moved on to greater and better things? Probably. She's got real work to do. Let's see. Even though we do have life there, again, it is kind of better just to swap everything out. That really, with 100% certainty, removes the computer from our problematic equation. We could be checking this in switch test too, but generally if something works in test, it's going to work in actual gameplay. The software should be able to figure out what's going on. Actually, for giggles, we're going to try that though. I know I keep saying I'm leaving, but I hate leaving a problem unsolved. Come on. So switch 15 is closed. Is that the gate? Nope. What is switch 15? Oh. This actually might be the world's easiest problem. So, switch 15, funny enough, is the tilt switch. These games have a bunch of different tilts. Slam tilt is not a tilt switch. Bally has Bally wired in capacitors on all of their switches, and what happens sometimes is these capacitors short, and that will short the switch closed, which makes it look like it's always closed. I'm going to start snapping these capacitors off. Not that one. Not that one. Well, that's curious, because I think that's the only one that has a capacitor. What about the slam tilts are different, aren't they? Oh, it's a different switch now. All right, hold on. So that capacitor was shorted shut. This would have been helpful for me to do before I went through all that rigmarole. Kind of jumping the gun almost. But again, I'm kind of rusty at this. I haven't been fixing pinball every day for a while now. Shooter lane switch is stuck closed. I'm assuming this is the shooter lane switch because there isn't one there. This is a common problem with Bally games. The capacitors do short. Let's cut this one. All right, check it out. Now we are going to be able to start a game and it's going to freaking work. The game was tilting immediately, and maybe something I didn't notice was that the tilt light on the back box was on. Yes, you absolutely got it. Let's see. There we go. What was happening was, again, we had a shorted capacitor on the plumb bob. And as soon as the game booted into software, it was tilting out. I feel really dumb. Everything works now. So that was my bad. I should have used some of the troubleshooting that is built into the game, right? sometimes I have this problem. I think a lot of people that troubleshoot things, pinball, car, whatever, you kind of jump to like the obscure or the strange scenario first. And this is something that you kind of wouldn't have guessed if you didn't know that that was an actual problem, right? I knew this. I just didn't see the signs from what I was looking at. Bally games are very, 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 very commonly, they have these teeny little capacitors that just short out. So that's exactly what happened here. It just so happened to be the tilt, right? And sometimes you'll have a capacitor that shorts out that's like on a scoring switch, and you'll mysteriously just start adding up points. Like, that's weird, I'm not hitting anything. But this one just so happened to be the tilt, which when I started the game, you know, the computer is like, okay, I got the signal, let's go. What's the first thing I need to do? Sound, go. Ball kicker, serve a ball. That's the first thing it does. And as soon as it like finishes those first couple instructions, it tilts out, right? As soon as the programming allows it to take an input, right? So, and again, the tilt is an input that I believe is not a dedicated switch. I believe it's a standard switch. Anyways, as soon as the program has executed what it needs to do and it gets to the point where it can take an input, it's tilting immediately. And if I would have maybe had the back glass on, I would have seen that tilt light up. Again, like as we know, a lot of the times when you get a tilt, it plays a sound and you get like, you know, okay, whatever. But in this case, that was just annoying and kind of goofy, but we figured it out, so yay. This one was pretty easy. I want to, I do need to replace the capacitor on the shooter lane switch. What happens is, again, as we kind of maybe know, and I kind of talked about for a second, the switch matrix is always strobing. It's going, you know, column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they have capacitors across the blades of the switch to kind of store that signal because it only works as fast as, you know, the clock can run it. And there's a lot of Bally games that it's a common thing where it needs those capacitors to be able to read the switch hit. It keeps that switch hit, the energy from the switch hit. You know, there is a little bit of voltage that runs across the switch matrix, and that's how it can tell when a switch is closed. And it kind of keeps that in storage just in case the switch matrix isn't ready to take that input yet. And usually you need those on things you hit quick, like posts or targets that are like really close to the flippers or something, and they just get glanced really hard, or a rollover or something like that. And in this case, the switch for the shooter lane is your skill shot, and not having that really sucks. So we will have to replace that capacitor for sure. But that's a good thing to have. There are 0.047 microfarad capacitors. If you have Bally games, you really need those things. Anywho, sorry, I'm talking a lot. Had a problem to start a game on Gottlieb's system spring break. Yeah, and the Gottlieb games are weird too, because like I know with the electromechanical games, they for a long time the slam tilts were normally closed, and if the switch opened, it would slam. And then for a while they were like, well, that's weird. No, we're going to switch it now. So they're normally open, and if they close, it's a slam tilt. And then they went back, and they kept going back and forth. I don't remember what it was like on System 80, but good find. And that's the thing, right, is I kind of knew, I had a feeling that the program didn't stop running. I wanted to think that because it made the most sense. But I should have gone backwards and used some of my tools, right? The computer has a switch test, and I should have tried doing that first before we kind of went down a rabbit hole that just made me confused. And that's okay. Again, it's like I'm not an expert, and you learn something new every day. I'm still learning. There's so much I don't know, and that was fun. It's something that you know, when you make that mistake, right? I learn from mistakes well. So if I wasted 40 minutes trying to figure out what the heck was going on, 30 minutes trying to figure out what the heck was going on. Next time I won't need to do that again because I'll remember that failure up here. Anyways, thanks for sticking around. That was fun. You guys keep me accountable to actually work on things. Maybe I will do this again tomorrow. I've got a lot of work to do in here, between here and the arcade that I'm going to go fix stuff at. So maybe we'll get another stream tomorrow if you guys are super bored. I'm happy that y'all joined me. Let's take a look and see if we can. Let me hand sanitize myself before I touch my computer. Let's take a look and see if there's someone to raid. Maybe there'd be someone cool you guys can go hang out with for a little bit after this. I'd like to see your big Croatian pinball collection sometime. That's pretty cool, man. I like seeing pinball in Europe. It's very fascinating to me. Let's see, I need to go to Twitch. I have friends in Germany that have rather large collections, but I don't know many other. I mean, I guess I know a guy in Greece that buys parts from us also that has a pretty big collection as well. So, hey, speaking of a German friend, my friend Andy is playing Scared Stiff right now. I'm gonna send all y'all on Twitch right now to go hang out with Andy and Loose Flip playing Scared Stiff. They might be speaking German. I know Andy does speak English. Most of his friends do too. But let's. These guys are rad. All right, I'm gonna send y'all over there really soon. Thanks for joining. That was fun. Check in tomorrow. Maybe I'll be doing something else. So, anyways, bye.